Hi everybody, my name is Corinne the coach, and this is Not Another Life Lesson, where we look to empower ADHD minds and multi-passionate creatives to transform from chaos to confidence. On today's episode, we are talking multi-tab madness, how to organize your internal computer system when you feel like you need to have 1,000 tabs open at once. We're here. I'm so excited. This is my first episode in my new studio, which is a long-time vision of mine. It's very colorful. You might notice there's pinks, there's yellows, there's blues. And I really just wanted this studio and this set to feel extra vibrant and extra expressive and extra like me, because that's what this show is about. This show is about learning to completely accept and align yourself with who you are in your fullest expression and the gifts and the fruits that come from that expression. And so for me, this is an act of not just expression, but bravery. This is an act of declaring myself and saying, I'm here to stay. I'm here to express. I'm here to mentor, to teach. I am here to share. I am here to talk, to support, and most importantly, I am here to exist just as I am, just me. There's so much beauty and confidence and power in just being exactly who you are, where you are, when you're there. Having ADHD is very comparable to having 100 different tabs open on your computer at once. And there's this fear deep inside that if I close a tab or if I pick a tab to focus on, that I'm never going to remember to come back to it. So I need to leave it open. There is this idea of attachment to the open tabs. Like, I know that I'm going to go back there today, so why would I bother closing it? And the truth is that as fast and incredible as my human computer system is, as our human computer systems are as neurodivergent folks or people with ADHD or creative-minded individuals, as fast as they can process information and move from piece to piece and live in this state of kind of organized chaos, as I like to call it, with 1,000 tabs open at once, the truth is that leaving all of those tabs open usually doesn't result in going back to the tab that you swear you're going to go back to that day. In fact, you can't even find that tab when you go to look for it because it's amidst 1,001 tabs. And a lot of the times, that many tabs open ultimately crashes your browser or crashes your whole computer, so that not only can you not recover those tabs, because how can you remember that you had 1,000 tabs open? But you're now at a standstill where you feel discouraged, where you feel like you have to start from scratch, thinking once again, what was that idea and that idea and that idea? And so your original plan to keep all of the tabs open so that you don't forget anything ultimately backfires. I first made the idea for Not Another Life Lesson in 2021 during the pandemic. It wasn't Not Another Life Lesson then. In fact, this show has had probably 25 different names. It was a completely different concept. It didn't speak to neurodivergent folks and creatively minded multi-passionates. It didn't seek to empower us to go from chaos to confidence. It didn't have the clarity of mission that I have today. I had so many different ideas, but I did know that I wanted to host a talk show. I did know that I wanted to create content. I did know that I wanted to be on camera. And I knew that I, to some extent, wanted to do a show that was purposeful and that would talk to people who are inspiring and have inspiring stories.
I'm just being myself without an excuse.
Why music?
Why music? Because music was the place where I felt free.
Dad had told me a while ago that when you are different, you have to be so good that someone can't tell you no.
That's what the ADHD brain is like. There's so many tabs open.
The show changed so many times, but the honest truth is, in between all of those changes, It wasn't just the show that was changing. I had so many tabs open at once that although I was so confident that one day I would in fact come back and make a show, by the time I found that tab again, that idea had expired and all sorts of other negative thoughts and limiting beliefs had found their way in to crash my system, to throw me into a state of freeze, and to make me feel like I have to buy a whole new computer. It's not enough to just reopen the browser and start from scratch. Now, neurotypical folks might tell you, well, just close the tabs. But our anxiety that we will never find that idea again, or our need to see it in front of us, because we all know for neurodivergent folks, it's out of sight, out of mind. So our need to see everything that we have in front of us at all times, and our fear of putting something away because we won't come back to it later, really stops us from keeping a system that actually will allow us to come back to it later. As I said, neurotypical folks might tell you, just close it up, come back to it. But that's not going to work for us now, is it? The key is to look at the whole browser and the whole computer system and ask yourself, what are the other features that I might not be using to my advantage to optimize my system and my chance for success? So for me personally, if we go to the tab metaphor, the bookmark tab and the bookmark organizer that allows me to save all of the tabs that are open in one browser window at once and label them something. So if I want to reopen the same exact browser with 1,000 tabs and I want to open them all at the same time, I can. In your life, what is your version of the Bookmark All Tab button? Is it a journal or a note on your phone that, like, as soon as you have this idea or this creative thought, you just jot it down as quickly as possible? You don't have to spend all the time in the world in it. You just jot it down, like one big idea dump page that you always know to come back to. Is it a sticky note or post-it wall with all of the bright colors in the world? And maybe it's color-coded. Maybe green post-its mean creative ideas, and blue post-its mean urgent tasks that need to be done today. And pink post-its means stuff I can do later this week. What is your personal system for organized chaos that will allow you to keep those tabs open in some sense without fearing that you will never come back to them, knowing that they're still in sight and that they're still accessible and available to you, while also freeing up the space that you need in order to actually prioritize tasks and pay attention to what it is that you need to do? The thing about closing tabs, both literal and metaphorical, is it comes down to whether or not you trust yourself and your internal system to come back to them later. And most of the time, for very valid reasons, we don't. Creating a system that you can trust involves really getting familiar and acquainted with your own brain, and that system does not have to make sense to anybody else except for you, which is a really tough one for neurodivergent and differently minded people to come around to. We're so used to being told what to do and how to do it by neurotypical people. And even with other advice from neurodivergent people, what works for them might not work for you. So my key here is not to tell you, this is my system that works for me and you should try it yourself, but it's to help you discover and feel empowered towards a system for organizing your tabs that feels good and will work for you more intuitively so that you can learn to trust yourself. Regardless of what system you use, whether it's that you create a note on your phone that is your someday/later ideas, or the post-its on the wall, or the dedicated journal that has your idea dump or your to-do lists or your organization, whether you text yourself that's a great idea, come back to it later. The point is that you have some type of save for later system, and you can trust yourself to return to it rather than default to that out of sight, out of mind by creating a system or structure around when you are going to return to it that is somewhat habitual. So for me personally, I set the same date every week and the same time that's going to be my bookmark inventory. Because we all know if you keep saving bookmark, saving bookmark, saving bookmark, and you have 1,000 bookmarks, it may not crash your computer in the same way that 1,000 tabs will, but going back and learning and knowing how and when to prioritize which of those bookmarks you want to actually visit, that's a whole task in and of itself. So the key is creating a regular structured system for bookmark inventory. Bookmark inventory may be weekly, maybe twice weekly, maybe every other week, depending on how many tabs you actually have open at a time, will allow you to look at everything with a bird's eye view, take inventory of what you've saved, what you've written down. And I like to do it earlier on in the week so that when you're going through for the week, you can determine I have mental space, time, and energy for one of these things, two of these things, or three of these things. Or maybe you're noticing week to week, if you're doing inventory every week, that for the last 3 or 4 weeks, you've had something that is persistent that's popping up. For me, a lot of the tasks and the things that were coming up week over week in my inventory for the last year, for all of 2025, had to do with setting up this set, had to do with building a content studio. And I had all of the little steps written down. I had a bunch of things. And every week I would write something like, okay, disassemble the guest bed that you have in there. But I didn't want to do that until I knew that I was going to be able to fit a couch or what lights I needed to use. So every week I was writing down different tasks that are related to each other, but I wasn't seeing the relationship between them and able to build something concrete until I looked week over week and I realized, building this content studio is probably important to me because I have something in my bookmark tabs in my library which keeps coming up week over week. So that inventory really allows you to see things, but it also allows you to determine what's important to you in smaller chunks. A lot of neurodivergent and ADHD people believe that that sort of someday maybe or to-do list for later is where great ideas go to die. It's the procrastination cemetery, and that a lot of the time can be true. But what we're trying to do here is rewire that thinking to take you from it's an idea cemetery where things go to die to it's a dedicated place that I can consciously visit to determine what's actually important to me and pick a few things every single week consciously that I'm gonna do, when I'm gonna do them, and how I'm gonna get them done to feel like I'm chipping away at things rather than just having a bunch of ideas that are going absolutely nowhere. For ADHDers or neurodivergent people, we often struggle with determining the importance or the level of priority that something should have. And what happens there is when you cannot decide if it's more important to go with buying the couch for the content studio or disassembling the bed or researching the lights or planning the year's worth of content, and all of them carry equal importance, and we try to prioritize them through their level of importance, we get stuck in this sort of freeze mode or analysis paralysis and end up doing nothing. The computer system, the browser shuts down, it crashes, it doesn't know what's more important, it doesn't save any tabs. So my personal solution to this is to, when you do that bookmark inventory, rather than look at things and try to assign them arbitrary levels of importance, I try to look at things by the energy that they're going to take and the category of task that it is. So for example, my brain has a really hard time switching from its super creative space to a super logistical, administrative, and organized space. I can do logistical and organized and administrative in a certain headspace and in a certain place with a certain energy level. And I can do creative and ideation in a whole other headspace. So for a neurotypical person, when it comes to, again, the example of setting up this studio, they might be able to determine everything that they need and do the research and bookmark it and everything simultaneously while they are envisioning the space and building the creative vision for what the set could look like. For my brain, those are two entirely different task categories that need to be grouped for different energy levels and different occasions. So I say this with love from me to you, sitting in my brand new studio, which, believe it or not, the actual design, building, and construction happened in a couple of weeks. But the paralysis that I carried and the multi-tab madness and the amount of times that I allowed my browser and my computer to completely shut down in the middle of me trying to do the task, that's what took months. And so I encourage you all to look at those tabs, to find the system that works for you. Don't just close them or just trust you'll come back to it later. Decide how you can create visibility for those tabs within a structured system that will allow your computer and your browser to operate with efficiency and actually get the things done that you want to do so that you can have your show or whatever it is that your vision is, you can bring it to life. I want to reinforce that your multi-tab madness does not make you crazy or chaotic or useless or any of the negative things that you might be thinking in your mind. It doesn't make you disorganized. It doesn't make you lazy. It doesn't make you a procrastinator. What it does make you is occasionally overwhelmed to the point where your system freezes up. So the goal and the challenge here is to start to be intentional with the mental tabs that you have open, taking relatively consistent inventory of what they are and moving away from that paralyzing fear you have that if you close it, it's closed forever. Building confidence and trust within yourself to manage your computer system, to organize your files in a way that reopening them will be exciting. You'll know when you're reopening them and what your goal is when you reopen them and why. The fear of forgetting stuff is so real, but keeping everything open all at once isn't protecting your ideas, it's suffocating them. This week, I want you to try the bookmark and close method with just one mental tab that's been draining your energy. Not everything, just one. Choose one thing and one method, whether it's the note dump method, the post-it method, the voice note, the text yourself, whatever bookmark method you need to use so that that tab can stay somewhat visible, accessible, and top of mind and not feel like it went to the graveyard or the cemetery. I want you to try to put it there and then set a dedicated and concrete time in your schedule that you won't negotiate with, where you will go back and return to that idea and take inventory of that idea and determine where it can fit in the rest of your week. Remember, you are not trying to become a different person, and you're certainly not trying to become neurotypical. What you're trying to do is become more efficient within the incredibly powerful supercomputer that you have in your mind, so that you can bring all of those crazy, wonderful ideas to life, so that you can find yourself sitting on your version of this yellow couch in front of this pink wall beside these amazing plants, well lit in front of a camera with decent sound. After months of holding your own self back and letting your computer freeze. I'm Corinne Rose Gerges, otherwise known as Corinne the Coach, and this has been not another life lesson. I learn the hard lessons so you don't have to. Please hit me in the comments with any questions that you might have, any feedback, any thoughts, and any interesting guests or topics that you would like me to speak to. Wishing you all a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and please let me know, what is that one mental tab that you've decided to bookmark for this week and that you're promising yourself you're going to revisit? And if you have any systems or ideas to share for those bookmarks, please put them in the comments. We are one community, always trying to help and support each other. I don't know everything, you don't know everything, but together we can collect all of the resources and tools that we need to run our supercomputers and make this world a colorful, creative place full of executed neurodivergent ideas. All the best and see you next time.